Char friends, welcome back. We're in 5-3 emotional 6.5 day sequence. We're going to talk about day two. Day two is right here in this white rectangle. Now, if this is your first forecast with us, be sure to check out this overview, the 5-3 overview. It discusses all the different parts of the graphs that we're going to go over so that you can keep up in these 24-hour forecasts because we're going to scoot along here. All right. So day two, definitely going to be a continuation of the day one challenge. So day one challenge was emotional polarity flip. We've got a mental polarity flip coming in first person in day two. So there's just this little bit of break here. It resets and then boom, we've got this mental polarity flip that's definitely going to make decision making processes a little bit tougher. And what it does is it creates that roller effect or that ocean swell, that analogy we use, where all the other polarity flips start to stack up on top of it. Now, is day two going to be impossible? No. Four is the number we worry about, and we definitely get to a four here halfway through the day. When we add these two things together, yeah, half the day's at a four. So half the day, it's very likely you're going to be feeling like you should be doing some things that might not be as productive as you'd like them to be. All right, so let's get down here now and take a look at what the testing sequence is going to be for day two. So in the testing sequence, this is just saying how many frequencies are going to be testing our choices and how those choices are connected to the quadrants of our body. And if your choices are out of balance, and the more out of balance they are with, creating a fair and balanced family, and remember, we're all an interconnected family. So the entire world, we're all just an extension. We should all be committed in treating each other kindly and nicely. Now, the problem is our defensive design tricks us into thinking we don't have to get along with everybody. Now, not only do we have to get along as a family, but we have to have a common goal that we're supposed to be working together at this team approach. So this interconnected team is supposed to be making sure that every future interconnected team is going to have a fair and balanced reality because of what each individual invested in. Meaning what you do presently, how it affects the future, that's what you're being gauged on. So these frequencies, as long as you're going to leave the future a better place and it's going to be fair and equal for everybody, and you're spending time to make sure that happens at the family, the individual, the world, and the national level, and you're getting along with all your teammates, you don't have to worry about these governing frequencies. Any relationship you're out of balance with, this is how it's connected to the quadrants of your body, and this is the testing sequence that's coming in day two. So left upper quadrant's definitely going to take a little bit more at the end of this 12-hour period. The right upper quadrant's holding pretty steady, maybe a little jump up midway through. Left lower quadrant's actually going to back down a little bit, and right lower quadrant's staying pretty steady. Now, when we did the general overview, there's not a whole lot of variation here. All four quadrants are being tested, which means this: you got to commit to your team and you got to balance your routine. And when you say, well, I am balancing my routine, no, you're not. None of us are. Look around and you can see the world is far from balance. Our countries are far from balance. Our weather is far from stable. We've got a long ways to go here. And the more people that start making the changes necessary, the better off we're going to be. And the better off you're going to be because not only does this help you as an individual reduce your stress, slow aging, make things better, but if you do this and you do it well, you actually can get out of the negative feedback loop we're in. You see, space time is just trying to teach you. And if you decide you want to learn and you learn what you're supposed to, there's really an advantage to that. You get to graduate. You get a better position in your next experience. Let's put it that way. Now, this is what the plutonic objective for day two is going to be. And we always lead into this because this is how simple this chart is. There are 8 first person and third person perspectives that you have to learn. And they're the same thing. It's the same 8 perspectives. You just look at it through third person, you look at it through first person, and then there's every combination of that perspective. And what you have to do is you have to, one, understand it from the emotional aspect. You have to, two, act on it physically. And to do that, you have to mentally put all that stuff together. There's your challenge. These are just frequencies that we're connected to. So if we're out of balance with the governing frequencies, they cause destructive interference, and that is what we experience as pain and aging. So, for example, this macro mental, we're going to start about talking about the strongest one first. This stays here all year. And what this wants to do is it's gauging, it's judging to see, well, how are your current choices and routines? How are they going to affect the future world? And how are your choices going to affect the future mothers? That's how you do this. Your choices are going to lead to a future. And maybe you're not thinking about what the future is going to be yet, but this chart's going to help you. Because if your choices are leading to a future that's unbalanced for the world or unbalanced for mothers, well, then this is where you feel it. If it's unbalanced for the world, you feel it in the left quadrant, lower side. Okay. And if it's unbalanced for the future mothers, well, then you're going to feel that in the right lower quadrant. So in 2024, If you've been having lower quadrant stuff, either left or right, and it's been going on for the entire year and no one can figure it out and it comes and it goes, but it just won't go away, that's your issue. The 8-4. That's what you need to start working on, and you need to start to understand your choices matter and your body depends on your choices. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about is a 7.5 day frequency. This is a micro mental. It's the only mental on the chart. That's why it's in the square. The other ones are macros. That's why it's a circle. Now, this is going to check to see what your future choices are going to bring at the family level and your choices are going to bring to the future nations of the world. If the future you're creating currently isn't going to be balanced for families and nations, then this is how you look at this. The family side of this is going to affect the right lower quadrant of the body. And the nation side of this, that's going to affect the upper left quadrant of the body. Out of balance, the more out of balance you are, the more you're going to feel it in those quadrants of your body. That's how we learn biofeedback. All right, the next strongest one. This is a 6.5 day frequency. This is the 5-3 emotional. How are your choices going to affect the future for individuals? How are your choices going to affect the future for fathers? Now, as long as it's balanced, no worried. If it's unbalanced, where is it going to go? This is how easy this is. The individual side, that's going to go to the right upper quadrant. And the father side, that's going to go to the left upper quadrant. So for 6.5 days, these are really good indicators. You know how pain comes on and it lasts for a certain amount of time. So if you get pain that kind of nags you for a week, you know it's one of these two frequencies. If you've been having pain for pretty much all year, you know it's this frequency. And if it's jumping around from day to day, these are the next two frequencies that are likely to do it. That's what we're going to talk about next. So the first physical macro. That's gonna see what are your choices gonna lead to? What's the future look like for daughters and fathers because of your current routine? Now, if you're out of balance with the daughter side of this, that's P1. It's going to the right upper quadrant. And P1 is going to the right lower quadrant over on the time side. So if you're out of balance with this father perspective, right lower quadrant. Now, the second P frequency, so the second 12 hours. So, how are your choices? What are they going to bring for futures for mothers? And what are your choices going to bring futures for mothers? So, it's doubled up here. Okay. And this is that P2, so it's going to affect right upper quadrant if it's the mother on this side, and it's going to affect the left upper quadrant if it's the mother on the time side. And the difference between those is first person perspectives and third person perspective. All right, so if you're having trouble with mother at either first or third person, you're going to have upper quadrant pain in the second half of the day. That's what that means. And that's what this chart's trying to help you understand. Now, if you're sick, you're not feeling well, you need to get better. No one what frequencies are in charge. Super important because I would tell people try to do all 64 of these things every day. But you don't want to do something that's not necessary. Meaning, if these are the frequencies that are in, you should really be concentrating on these relationships if you're struggling with this part of your body because that's how you're going to get healthy. Even if you're doing something good, but it's in another awareness, that's kind of counterproductive. So we're trying to help you understand why you'd want to schedule your time and understand things and how this chart progresses or how this pattern unwinds because you can use it to your advantage. Okay. So good news here in day two is there's not a lot of alignments. So we're just going to briefly talk about this. Alignments are just amplified moments. You go to our homepage, we've got a little live feed. You'll see a time bar come up. It'll go through these alignments. And during an alignment, it's just an amplified moment. We're always being tested, but these are moments that are going to be easy for pretty much everyone to feel if you're out of balance at all. So if you wonder why you get a trigger point or a knot somewhere in your body or a headache comes on or you just notice something for an hour or so and then it goes away, these are usually the culprit and they're pretty simple to understand. So these blue alignments, they test to see how well we get along with our teammates. And it shouldn't matter if the teammates are older, younger, if they're masculine, feminine. You got to be able to communicate and coordinate with all of them. You got to be able to work through stress with all of them. And you have to be able to talk about objective and synchronize routines to make sure that future families are going to have a better experience because of what you're committed to. Okay. So the blue alignments today are going to actually test how we get along with older teammates. So I already talked about it. Doesn't matter older or younger, you know what you got to do. If you're not doing that, the more you're not doing that, the more you're going to feel it. So when the time bar is going through this blue alignment right here, that's when you can expect to feel it in the upper quadrants of the body if you're out of balance. And if it's something you really need to pay attention to. And again, you want to do this anyway. This is just a way for you to understand where you're at and what you would want to focus on. So on the time side, that's this alignment right here. This is an hour and a half long. This is checking to see how balanced routine is at the larger level. So what we're doing at the national and world level. Not be surprised if people get headaches or notice things like sinus stuff that comes on during this time. A lot of people are going to feel this one just because it's, again, it's obvious. Look around. We're far from balanced, so a lot of people are going to be feeling these alignments, no doubt about it. All right, so light day in alignments, let's keep rolling here. Now, if you wanted to see the rest of the days of the week, to see how the lesson plan is going to change and how, as it changes what parts of the body are going to be tested and how strong the frequencies are that are testing that body. We got the whole thing here. You can go for another 6.5 days. You can wait and hear us do the detailed forecast for you every 24 hours, but we want you to be prepared, so we put this down here as well. And in addition, we also show you when the alignments are coming. So this was day one, and this is going to switch out here in just a second. It's going to show day two, what we just went through right now. And then after this, day three is coming up. And this chart and this chart are synchronized together. So you can take a look at that. You can take a look at this, and now you know what's coming. And then finally, the rest of the year is electromagnetics. We got them posted. We want you aware. We want you prepared. We don't want you acting defensively, because that makes it harder on you. And when you're not doing well, that affects all of us. Okay. Health Reconnected is here to try to get as many people as we can overcoming this pattern so that we can start to make a huge impact here, some social change, something that's noticeable, something that's needed. Can't wait to see you in the next one. Talk to you then.